If statements in Excel, advanced. If you've used an if statement in the past and you feel like you've just kind of scratched the surface, want to see what else you can do, this video is for you. If you've never used an if statement, if you have no idea what an if statement is, stop what you're doing, go check out the beginner tutorial, and then come back here and join us. Where we start today is going to be pretty far ahead of where a typical beginner would like to be, so we'll see you soon. For everyone else, we're going to go into 4 examples of how to take an if statement to its limit. We're going to basically use an if statement with additional formulas. We're going to use things that look and smell like an if statement but aren't an if statement. So definitely stick around to the end. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Everything we covered today will be available for download in the links below. So lean in, download the sheet after the fact, and then go and create your beautiful if statements. I'm Kyle with the Technical Accountant. Let's go. So to kick things off, you're going to go right into a nested if statement. What do you get with a typical if statement? You get the value if true, and you get a value if false. Well, what if you want to expand that out? That's where a nested if statement comes into play. So let's start with a very, very basic if statement just for a second here. So let's do equals if F2 equals NEC. This is where you just get your value of true. So I'm going to say if NEC, give me the value of 1. If it's not NEC, give me a blank. So you see I got my 1s. I drop this all the way down, double click in the box here. There we go, I've got my 1s. What about all these other values here? I've got not a 1099 vendor, I've got MISC, I've got rents down here. Those all need to have a value for the 1099 box as well. And that is where a nested if statement comes into play. So let's expand this. All it is, it's saying if value is false, let's just keep the logic going. So basically we're going to add another if statement, a nested if statement. So I'm going to do if. So let's do F2 again. If F2 equals not a 1099 vendor. In this situation, I want to show a 9. Let's keep going. If value is false, so if it's not NEC, if it's not a 1099 vendor, I'm going to say if F2 equals MISC, give me the value of 4. And then my last nested if statement here is going to be if F2 equals rents, give me the value of 9. So at the end here, so if it's not NEC, if it's not a 1099 vendor, if it's not MISC, if it's not rents, then I've got something off here. I just want to show me a blank so that way it sticks out. Now to close this, you'll see each if statement is colored something different. So right now I'm on the green. Well, when I close my first parenthesis, you're going to see the purple one here light up. So there it goes. And now here comes the reddish pink. And last but not least, you'll see the white. So once I've made it all the way to the left side, I know that I've closed out every single one of my if statements. I have the correct number of parentheses. So I hit enter. Looks good. I'm going to double click the box here to drop it all the way down. And now you see that I've got records for everything that I expect to get a record for. That is a nested if statement doing its work right there. So let's move on to the next one. This one, I'm going to use my receivables tab here. And what I want to do is I want to say if something needs to have sales tax in this situation calculated, but that's going to be based on data that's not on this tab. So what you could typically do, one example, you could just basically say, okay, well, let's pull in the country here, and then let's do a VLOOKUP, and let's pull over the country from my customers tab down here. But we're not going to do that. I don't want to clutter up this sheet with a bunch of information that I don't necessarily want to see. So let's get rid of this column. And what we're going to do, we're going to use a if statement with an XLOOKUP. So I'm going to do equals if. Open up, my logical test is going to be the XLOOKUP function. My XLOOKUP is going to be, let's go find customer number. In my lookup array, it's going to be from the customers tab. My customer number is in column A. The return array, the value that I want to return, is going to be over here in column G. This is the country. Column G, and then that'll do it for my XLOOKUP statement. So I'm going to close my XLOOKUP statement. So now I'm saying if the country based on the customer number is United States, then return the value. Yes, I need to calculate sales tax. If it's not United States, I don't need to calculate sales tax, so I'm just going to say no. I'm going to close my parenthesis here to close my entire formula. And then again, you notice that when I typed it in, the white over here highlights, so I know that I've closed all parentheses. Let's hit enter. And now let's drop it all the way down. I'm going to double click my box here, and you'll see it goes all the way down to the end, and then there's the value that I want. So instead of adding that additional column, which I didn't want to see, I'm basically just looping in the XLOOKUP statement with my if statement to give the result that I want. So let's move on to the next one. The next one here is going to be off of my sales line items tab, and we're going to use ranges here to give us the result that we're looking for. The range is going to be based off of the margin. So what it's going to say, if my margin is greater than $1,000, this customer priority is going to be very high. So let's say if J2 is greater than 1,000, I would want to say high. Now $1,000 here, that's pretty high. For the stuff below it, I want it to show something else. For things between say 1,000 and 500, I want to give them a medium priority. So with that, I'm going to use a nested if statement and an and formula. So here, let's do our if. Again, it's that nested if criteria. So our logical test here is going to be and. I'm going to say if J2 is less than or equal to $1,000 and J2 is greater than $500, if that and statement is met, if it equals true, I want it to show medium priority. For my last nested if there's anything less than $500, I want it to show low priority. So this one, again, another nested if statement here. So last test, if J2 is less than $500, if that is met, let's say low. And if none of my criteria are met here, which wouldn't make any sense, it's going to either be greater than 1,000 or it's going to be less than $500. I want to show just a blank. And now I want to make sure I close out all of my if statements. So there's the purple, there goes the pink and red, and here goes the white. So let's hit enter. So the medium, so this is where it's using the nested if statement with the and formula. This 675 is between 1,000 and 500. Now if I drop this down, you see this is below 500, and this margin is greater than 1,000, so it's showing me high. So using nested if statements with and formulas can create some very nifty things. Let's move on to our last example here. I'm going to go back to my receivables tab. In this situation, what I want to do is I want to populate this document amount dash accounting with this column, but saying if it is invoice, make it positive. If it is credit memo, make this number negative. So as we learned on the first example in the vendors tab here, I could certainly do a big, long, giant nested if statement. However, the issue here is that look at all these options that I have. I have at least 10 here. So that would be the world's longest nested if statement. There is a cleaner and faster way, and that's using a switch statement. Switch statement acts like an if statement, smells like an if statement, but it's just cleaner. So let's take a look. So here I'm going to do equals switch, and now it says my expression. So let's go base our logic off of C2. So the next thing it asks for here is the value. Well, what is it looking for? In this situation, I'm going to say if it is service/repairs, what do I want to return? I want to return E2. Okay? Well, if it is invoice, I want to return E2. If it is credit memo, I want to return negative E2. Let's keep it going. If it is a debit memo, I want to return E2. Now let's go ahead and close this out. I'm not going to put in every single option at this time. I'm just going to go ahead and close my parenthesis. You see it says, okay, well it is service and repairs. So let's go ahead and return the positive. Let's drop this all the way down. And now look what it did with the credit memo. It made the credit memo negative like I asked it to do. If credit memo, then return negative E11. This row, I haven't put in the payments into my switch statement, so it's giving me an NA, but as soon as I want to return a negative E16 here. Using the switch is just a cleaner way to do what would have been the world's longest nested if statement. So switch, definitely the way to go. Clean is good. It's easy to follow, easy on the eyes versus that big, long, giant nested if statement. So that'll wrap up advanced if statements. I love to hear what advanced if statements you create. So let me know in the comments below. Consider giving it a thumbs up and subscribing. Plenty more content coming your way. I'm Kyle with The Technical Accountant. We'll see you on the next one.